Hi, Tanya.
Hey, Anne Marie, how are you today?
We're good. Here we are. We have
Good.
a new guest today, Julie Ellis, here to
Good.
join us on our Living Less podcast. So we're recording and we're going. So here we
Perfect.
go.
I'm so excited to be here.
We're happy you're here too.
Mhm.
We were just previously chatting. We realized we needed to record because we were getting a little having too much fun with no one else got to be part of it.
Yeah.
So we want to start off a little bit. You've been living left turns for a long time, and
Mm.
before and Tanya and Julie, you have met. I've introduced you before,
Yep.
right? We have
Hmm.
met
Yep.
in kind of
Yep. We
the
did.
last 10 years
It's
together.
been, I was just saying, it's been a few years, but it feels like it was just yesterday. But yes, we absolutely did.
Yeah. And then Julie, you and I crossed paths originally through Mabel's.
Many years
Talk a
ago
little bit
through
about
Mabel's
that, and then
Labels.
kind of in the
Yes.
departure again, and then like. There's been a few
Yeah.
interconnections as you were turning left, I was turning left, we would bump
Yep.
in. Um, so why don't you introduce yourself right off the bat?
Sure.
Give us a little bit about you so we don't make
Sure.
the assumption.
Of
Yeah,
course,
great
yeah.
question.
So I'm Julie Ellis, and I am one of four co-founders at Mabel's Labels. And I left a job as a financial planner after we started that business. Um, we grew it up to about 40 people and eight figures of revenue before we sold it.
Yeah.
And after we sold, I was the one, my co-founders joked I would stay forever and,
Mm.
go and drink coffee in a boardroom and generally be a nuisance there for the rest of my life. But instead, after we sold the business, I ended up leaving after 6 months.
Okay.
And that kind of sent me into a bit of a spiral. I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to do next. And I felt,
Mhm.
even though we had sold a very successful business and I had done a lot of things, I felt like I wasn't sure why anybody would hire me next.
Mm.
I led finance. I'm not an accountant. I led IT. I am definitely never written a line of code and never will. Led our retail business. So I had like a lot of really good knowledge about things, but nothing at a really, really like deep personal contributor level.
Yeah. At
Hmm.
a founder level, at a
Yeah,
founder
at a
leadership level.
founder level of
Yeah.
running things. And so I really struggled. And I also struggled because I was worried about failing at the next thing I did after a big success. And it really
Hmm.
got me stuck. And as I started getting unstuck, I went and ran a business for somebody else, which was a lot of fun. Great team, great brand. But it was the thing that made me realize that really I wanted to build something for myself.
Gosh.
And it made me also realize like big goals and then a real downturn and then
Yeah.
coming back to myself. Like what's the difference between people who do these really big things and people who kind of never get off the starting gate? Like what is
Yes.
it that makes us different and why does that happen?
Absolutely. My
That is
gosh. And I'm listening to which I knew elements of it, but I'm looking at Anne Marie because it's a similar kind of path.
very
That's where we're
similar.
going to get into kind of insights and things that we feel intuitively, I think in particular as women, as we're very in touch with ourselves. We may not have the words, but what you're saying, Julie, as I was questioning what's next. And I do think at a deep level, women do that all of the time. And Anne-Marie, you were the same, like, while, coming off of your last business and then going to work for a company and realizing, okay, now I kind of have better clarity.
Yeah.
It's just such an interesting pattern for both of you. So my question to Julie was, how did you work through some of that? I'm assuming there was doubt, but like, did you intuit, like now that you're on the other side of it, did you kind of know, but maybe didn't have the words? Or were you literally just like, what's next in front of me and I'm just going to find my way? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that, a lot of women in particular.
It turned into like having less expectations of myself kind of because
Yes.
the
Yeah.
more expectations I piled on, the more frozen I got, right?
100%.
And so I had to sort of let go of that and be like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna try some things here. And trying things is, it was fun. And I really was able to make a difference. And it also really helped me get clear on what I wanted.
Yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
What,
love that.
what I was just thinking, what was going on in your life at home? I was actually thinking about that at the same time because Because was your family like they were still at home when you were making
Yeah. My
decisions,
kids
right?
were like, at that time, they were like 17, 15, 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
So still high
Um,
transition, but not
yeah.
transitioning entirely. Because that, I do think that that's another layer, well, that all people, but I think particularly mothers.
What?
When you're
Yeah.
you are in flux and then your family is in flux and then prioritizing
Hmm.
that you also deserve the attention
Yeah.
to make the big decisions,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah. Yeah, and trying to figure out what to do. Like, I think also I was tied up in this, like, because I never thought I would leave Mabel's. So I was going through a grief process about
Yes, for
leaving.
Yeah.
sure.
But I couldn't reconcile that with the gratitude I should feel for being an entrepreneur who was able to sell her business, because that is meant to be the pinnacle of your entrepreneurial journey. And
Yes.
it was for sure, but I couldn't reconcile those two things together. So I didn't know how to talk about it. And so I just didn't, which
Mhm.
set me on a not great course for quite a long time, over a year. And then the other thing with leaving was the people who stayed were incredibly busy with the new rhythm that was required. And so I sort of like destabilized my whole life all in one kind of
Yeah.
fell swoop.
Yeah, because the four of you, you all made different choices.
We all made different choices, and the people who stayed behind were working really, really hard.
Hmm.
And then what I was missing actually didn't exist anymore. And so, like, it's a very complicated, it was a complex set of emotions for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. And
Wow.
then it's easy to sort of like just diminish yourself in all of that.
Yes. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It all becomes, what could I have done differently? What should I be doing better? There's
Yeah.
obviously something I can fix. I can fix, I can fix.
Yes.
Where I think the beauty of where we are now, whatever our journey has been up to this quote unquote midlife area,
Mhm.
is the hindsight to say, wow, there I could, imagine if I could have just been in that moment and just, to your point, the exercise is to just let go of what we've put on ourselves, but obviously
Mhm.
society has put on us, and as working moms and that whole expectation. So now you're able to bring that forward to women now who are going through, I mean, it's age old. This is
Mm-hmm.
regardless of your age, but in particular, there tends to be a cadence that happens as women get to a point, maybe kids are leaving, there's a driver, in your case, selling a business, there's a transition or a pause, whatever you want, a left turn that happens, whether
Yeah.
forced or brought to you or you choose
Mm-hmm.
it. And you said something very interesting before we jumped on, said we need to start recording.
Yeah.
You said, because Amory kind of, and this is my perimenopausal brain, because I know it was something amazing, but I can't remember the words. But you said, Amory, people are choosing it. And Julie, you said, well, is it this or is it something else? Let's talk
Right.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
So
was
Anne
it?
Marie, you were talking
Yeah.
about
Someone clarify what it was,
people who are
please.
come, but we were talking about people who are coming into entrepreneurship at a
Yes.
Yes.
later entry point in life,
Yes.
Yes.
in their 50s, 40s,
Yeah.
50s,
Correct.
60s,
That's
right?
my curiosity is I feel, and I don't know stats, but I feel as
Yeah.
if there's kind of um two prominent, but maybe three
Mm-hmm.
times when women come into entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
There's the rare people who start off knowing they're going to be an entrepreneur right away, which I feel that
Mm-hmm.
is a minor, smaller set.
Yeah.
Then there's the people that are working for somebody else, have a good idea, they've learned some skills, and then they take the jump. Generally, I feel those women anyway take that jump before they have established 2 minutes goal, what I would call golden handcuffs. Like
Hmm.
they've done
That's
it
me.
before,
Yeah.
they've gotten to a point where they actually can't. And that so let's and then I feel then if they didn't take it then, they wait.
Mm-hmm.
They wait until um they're in that third act of their career where maybe they're closer to retirement, they're not retirement, they've maybe gotten rid of some of their responsibilities or they've saved up enough of a nest egg to feel they can leave
Mhm.
those responsibilities
Yeah.
and then they launch. So that was my
Yeah.
theory is I felt like the midlife is that third person.
Hmm.
My interpretation is that perhaps those women have prioritized this dream of starting something and put it in there. And that was my question is, do you see that because they feel more free? And you kind of were like, well, maybe, but maybe not.
So yes, I think that some of them do. Definitely, they reach a point. Yeah, are their kids finished university? Are their kids kind of like launching themselves, and so they have the more freedom financially and freedom of time to be able to think about it.
Yeah.
But I also think there are women, Gen X women in particular, which is
Hmm.
me,
Yeah. And
where you know we were told when we came out of university that we would never be able to be that successful because the baby boomers were going to block us. It was such a
Hmm.
big generation. We were going to be blocked from being truly successful, climbing the ladder, all the things. And I think that the women, Gen X women who've been very successful corporately have put their heads down and worked damned hard. And
mhm.
and they're tired. I see a lot of
Hmm.
people who are questioning, why what it all meant and what it was all for.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and leaving that because they're burnt out and they're not really sure where the purpose lies in what they've been doing and want to kind of find that meaning. And so they're looking to use the skills they have to transfer them into something they can build for themselves.
Yeah. 100%. I fall very squarely in that space. That is a trajectory at 100%. And it's just allowing yourself the space to start to question. And it is, I always use the analogy of I always, Emery is like, you've said it on almost every podcast, but it's like the Matrix, and
Hmm.
that you are unplugged all of a sudden and you're walking around this world going, how have I been on this, hamster wheel?
Yeah.
And listen, I
Yeah.
don't regret my career. I can now say, as we head into our 10th year, that I mean, it was the 20 years previous that allowed me, because entrepreneurial was not something I would have chosen. Anne Marie, I aspired to work with Anne Marie, and we kind of came
Yeah.
together, and she's the one who taught me really to follow my intuition. And in fact, it is
Hmm.
quite entrepreneurial. I've learned a lot from my business partner, but I
Hmm.
was that Gen X woman who was like, I just worked and worked and worked. So that's helpful, certainly, because there's a level of experience from that end.
Yeah.
But it very much is exactly, and I believe I kind of went through burnout, but there was a burnout aspect. I was just done.
Hmm.
So then I was
Hmm.
like, well, maybe I'll just retire at
Hmm.
like 45. That could be
So,
fun. I'm
so
like, yeah,
Julie,
that can happen.
do you find that people know what their big gorgeous goal is? Because
Good question.
I'm curious to hear they hit the burnout and they know they need
Mm,
something else.
yeah.
Understanding and knowing what it is that you want or
Hmm.
you want to build or be a part of is I don't know if everyone is as open to that. Do they need help in finding that? Like,
They just know what they don't want, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they know what they don't want. I
Hmm.
think they do need help in figuring it out. And I think often they're trying to set a bunch of goals, which
Yeah.
is always what tells me they haven't reached high enough yet.
Okay. Good
Usually,
point.
like what I encourage people who are like, no, but I want six things. I'm like, no, there's one thing above the six. There's an
Yeah.
umbrella there somewhere. And these six things may become part of chasing the bigger piece. But
Hmm.
but I always think, you know, we can't really do six. You can't chase six things all at
No.
once. And so
No.
So
you've
what's
got
an
to get to the
example?
heart of what the highest one is
Yeah.
Hmm.
and start working there.
So as are those goals as broad as I want time freedom or are they
Mhm.
chasing a dollar or they're chasing I really want to make this
Lifestyle.
widget? Like what
Yeah.
how big?
I think they're bigger than making a widget usually, right? But I think that it is, yeah, I want time freedom. Like, do I have the money for that? Do I know how to do that? Do
Sure.
I like it's always a goal where there are a lot of questions.
Yeah.
In fact, there's probably more questions than answers when you get started. And part of the journey is starting to figure out the answers and like kind of calibrating the path and the goal as you go.
Okay. And what, so,
Questions.
and have you found that there's been a shift? So, kind of when you've started this discussion to kind of where women are now, maybe walk us through, because I think, a lot's happened through the years. I mean, COVID feels a
Mm-hmm.
while back, but it wasn't that far still.
Mm-mm.
And I just think the way the world is, and as women, and being galvanized to feel
Mm-hmm.
very strongly, even more so, or take action now, given what's going on around us.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen some shifts that's happening? I'm curious about that.
Well, one of the things, I mean, right now, I would say people are feeling a lot of uncertainty, right?
Yeah,
But I don't know if that's any different than in 2020, really.
sure.
Like, did
Yeah.
we have any idea, right, what this whole
No.
decade was going to look like? Like the upheaval of a global pandemic, political instability, wars in the world, like all the
Yeah.
pieces. But if I kind of look back at some of the biggest things that I've decided to do or that have been big successes for me, they almost always happened in uncertainty. When I
Yeah.
felt my most uncertain and I decided to take a step forward somewhere, it's where the best things happened. And
Yes.
Hmm.
so we've also got to find a way of moving in uncertainty because otherwise we're going to get caught. And it's so
Yeah.
funny because at the midpoint of this decade, I was running these workshops on big, gorgeous goals and how, we'd been totally derailed in the first 5 years of this decade. And if we
Yeah.
wanted to make progress by 2030, we kind of needed to start moving because that 5 years felt like it
Yes.
passed. And
Yes.
here we are like 2 years later, and do we feel like we're moving? Probably not. But it's the kind of thing that like we owe it to ourselves to set a big goal and move anyway,
Yeah.
because if we wait for things to be certain, we are going to wait forever.
Yeah.
Yes. And
100%.
if you don't move, you won't even get half of that started.
Exactly.
If you move,
Exactly.
you set the goal and you fail,
Yeah.
okay, so we failed, but at least
Yeah.
we were moving
Progress.
in the direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is those left turns where all the surprises and delights are, right?
Absolutely.
It is the thing that is most unexpected where you find the best outcomes
Agreed.
and the things that mean the most.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But we've
Agreed.
not been raised in that way.
No.
No.
No,
We were raised,
but our parents were raised by, people who lived through the Great Depression and wars,
Yes.
world
yes.
wars, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's totally true. So the
Yeah.
uncertainty, we were raised by those who feared uncertainty. So therefore, we were also
Mm-hmm.
raised to
Mm-hmm.
aim for the certain and the
And
secure.
Yes.
chase security in the way
Yes.
it was
Yeah.
defined for us.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, and if
Right.
you look at the history of humankind, like we're probably the world has only become more uncertain as the centuries have passed, and we're not kind of built for that,
No,
Yeah.
that is
as
very
a as
true.
a as a species.
As a
So if you
species.
think about it, I mean, midlife also has a lot of uncertainty in it. So
Sure does.
I wonder if there's a correlation to that, that we're in the most uncertainty, like, you may have spent 20 years. I hate that word control, but we all were happy
Hmm.
in the control we had
Hmm.
with,
Hmm.
that
Yes, and
time. And
suddenly you're
therefore,
out of control.
yeah, you have the
Mm.
control somewhat, some things. And
Hmm.
then as your family ages, you lose that control. And there's
Hmm.
uncertainty in that, which is the whole point of raising and launching. That's the whole point.
Hmm.
But there's some uncertainty. And then maybe your health is a bit weird or
Hmm.
wonky, or
Hmm.
even if you're healthy, it's weird perimenopause or whatever, right? Like,
Yes.
Absolutely.
but you're lucky to have that uncertainty and hopefully a long future in uncertainty.
Yeah.
So how do you become really comfortable in that and and then so do people feel weird about setting a goal in an uncertainty? That's,
Yes. And I think it's where like you can become afraid to, you can even go as far as to set the goal and then let the fear take over where you just never move. And
Yeah.
so it is about figuring out how to get yourself moving like how to, who, if you never tell anyone your goals, you will probably find it harder to move. I'm not suggesting you take out a TV ad or anything, but, but,
I agree with
you've
that.
kind of got to figure out who are your people that you want to tell. And that might not be your family. It might not be your best friends. It might be other people who are trying to do big
Hmm.
things, right? And so it's like you have all these different pools of support, but you got to find the right one who
Mm.
wants you to want big things.
Yeah.
Pools of
Yeah.
support. That's
Um,
an interesting concept. Pools of
with,
support.
yeah, I agree with that. I do like that because I do think that, finding your accountability partners, or a big thing is just say it out loud to whomever. Like it doesn't have to be everyone. But then it's harder to not action something if you've already told someone you're doing it.
Yep.
That is a very good point.
So are
Um,
you coaching people, Julie, in this way? Like you're one of the pools of support?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how are people, if they have an idea, are they coming to you with an idea, or they're coming to you because they need to find an idea and they're struggling to find that goal?
I would say both.
Hmm.
Okay.
Both. Although I do have a lot of people who are very goal-oriented, motivated people who want accountability is part of it. And part of it is really just like they kind of know what they need to do, but they need that thought partner to push it
Yeah.
around with and have the confidence to keep stepping forward.
Love that.
So that's where also your background as a founder would be
Yeah.
so helpful.
Yeah.
Because not just as a coach, but with a coach with the experience
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
what that
I've
feels
got the
like.
coaching certification and the practical experience that kind of come
Yeah.
together in how I work with people. And it does really like there are a lot of really qualified coaches out there that are doing really, really great work. But my kind of difference is that I just bring and so then,
Perspective.
here's how we did it, here's what we did,
Yes.
here's what I learned about that. Here's what I saw when I worked somewhere else. Like these are the
Yeah.
different pieces that can really come together to
Amazing.
help people as they're growing.
And do you find most of the people that come to you are women?
Yes, not all, but most. Yeah.
Most. So
Yeah.
there,
Interesting.
so is it, and what about in your, like, how would you find people? How are they finding you?
A lot by referral and word
Okay.
of mouth.
Okay.
Hmm.
I've had some people find me on Google, like I
Yeah.
like a lot of different ways, but mostly through referral and word of mouth.
Yeah.
And it is mostly women, and probably partly because, the book was oriented
Yes.
to women, the podcast is
Yeah.
oriented to women,
Yes.
and that really just has come out of the stats of, only 2% of businesses started by women clear 1 million in revenue.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so my whole philosophy has just been like, if you can see it, you can be it. And so let's share more stories. Let's help more women build
Yep.
bigger businesses. And so because I talk about those things, I have positioned myself really towards women entrepreneurs. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean I can't help more people than just that, but
Of course.
I really am passionate about seeing women like
Same.
achieve more.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, agreed.
Yeah.
As we are.
My theory that they're only 2% it clear 1 million is because I think most of them are consultant, like solo entrepreneurs. Is that a correct
Yeah,
theory?
that's probably true. Or they're doing it as a lifestyle business while they raise their families because
Yeah.
they're making a choice. I think,
Yes.
a lot of it
Yeah.
is about choice. I think though there is a section, like there are people who want more and aren't sure how to get there, right?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah, oh,
is
yeah,
this
for
piece
sure.
of like I think I come in at this intersection of like growing an eight-figure business is as much of a leadership journey for the founder as it
Hmm.
is like operations and strategy.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, for sure would be. Because also, yeah, not all founders are also meant to lead it into the next stage
Well,
necessarily.
and that's, the crossroads that everybody's going to reach at some point, right? And
Yeah.
it's really hard for a founder to think about not being the CEO of their company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
hundred percent.
Yeah.
100%. Especially, and it depends on why they got into it in the first place too. Like
Hmm.
what was their passion? And
Yep.
maybe their passion isn't the like the COO of the business, except
No, and
you
like
are the
it's never,
COO.
and nobody's passion is having 100 people that report to them. That's not why we
No,
start businesses.
No.
not at
Yeah.
all.
But
Not
that's
at
the
all.
reality. If you're successful, you'll get everything you don't want is kind of
Yeah.
like ultimately what happens. You get a lot of process, you get a lot of people, you get HR problems, you have, I don't know, if are you do you turn into a micromanager or somebody who doesn't know how to really make decisions effectively or
Hmm.
delegate really well or champion your team. And so that's where the leadership journey comes in.
Yeah.
So that's a nice conduit because that's your leadership coaching
Yeah.
coming into that. So it's
Yeah.
not just coaching to reach for the goal, but it's yeah, that's the other. Are you still
Yeah.
doing traditional leadership coaching anymore?
I'm still doing a little bit of it, but I launched a program recently for called Pocket Coach, and
Oh,
it's like asynchronous voice note coaching. And
oh,
Mm.
so it really helps people in that moment where they're like, I'm not sure if I'm making the right decision, but I need to move. And they don't want to put it on the list for me when they see me in 2 weeks. And so it's more meeting people where they are and and
Okay.
and supporting them through day to day and the ongoing decisions and the ongoing progress they make towards their goals.
Oh, that's smart.
I think I saw that on social. Were you promoting that? And
Yeah.
so then so someone just calls you, leaves their voicemail, and then you
Yep.
send back a little. That is
Yep.
smart. That's very smart.
Yeah.
Because then they get an answer. You're not giving a whole pile of time, but you're already familiar with the business, obviously.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and it's been really I sort of I knew someone who was doing it. I started it as a bit of an experiment and I really really like it. So that's kind of
I
where we've
love that.
landed.
That's fun.
And in
Yeah.
your, the types of women, I'm going to use women specifically that
Hmm.
you're working with, are you seeing some um segmenting or buckets? Like I'm just very curious of, I'm always curious as we look at the women who were before us and learning from them. And I'm so very curious, I'm raising a daughter. She's a while into like she's in university. But the point is, the younger generation, I'm just so in a lot of ways impressed by them. And I'm curious as to the women before us, are they are you seeing, a difference in them coming to this realization sooner? Is pocket coaching kind of something that is driven by maybe, if it's a busier woman at a stage, an age and stage of her career, that would work? Are there any kind of like, oh, that you went, huh, interesting. I would not have predicted that, but that totally makes sense for people who are listening who might go, where
One of
might I
the things,
fall?
yeah, one of the things that I found was
Mhm.
like in my journey, when I wanted to find like a mastermind or a group
Yes.
of people,
Yeah.
that wasn't as readily
Yeah.
Is it?
obvious.
Yeah.
But it's
Yes.
very obvious today. There are
Yeah.
many people who have communities and
Yeah.
meetups and like roundtables and all kinds of support like that.
Nice.
I have the suspicion that people aren't using one-on-one support quite as
As
much.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, coaching, the proliferation of coaches has
Hmm.
made it
Mhm.
a little bit more difficult to filter who's going to be the right fit for you
Fit for
and
you.
who's going to help you get where you want to go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a
That
really
totally.
good point on there are a lot of coaches and it's tricky to know what people specialize in
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's accreditation, but not maybe like for the specific
Hmm.
piece. So
Hmm.
as you were talking, you made me think about if you went back in time to when you and your teammates started Mabel's, like a good reference that today there's so many communities, there's so many things. If you go back and think, oh, if imagine, I wonder what it would have happened in today's world if that idea had come
Hmm.
up, and would it have launched faster or slower or
It would have been very different. Like I think about the problems, like some of our biggest problems when we launched were, like taking credit cards on the internet was a
yeah,
problem.
Yeah.
Like some of the biggest problems are just no, no, now you build a Shopify site and off you
yes,
So
go.
easy.
done.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just
You
it's
could
it's a
scale so
very
much faster now.
Yes, you can, but it's also a lot noisier.
Hmm.
So
Mm,
these are the
good
trade-offs,
point.
right? And now, I mean, and now Google's moving to AI first search. What does that do for SEO,
Hmm.
for Google
Hmm.
Ads, for, all the things we've been taught are the tools that we need are it's changing
Changing.
rapidly,
Yeah.
right?
Tell us
Again.
about it. This is as
Mm-hmm.
marketers,
Yeah.
so much of
Yeah.
that is upside down.
Yep.
Yes.
Upside down to what we all built for the last 20 years, basically,
Yes.
right?
100%.
Yeah.
And so, and so I think there's opportunities that we didn't have when I started and different challenges than we had. And
Hmm.
so it's just that, times change. Some things stay the same, like your cost of acquisition for a customer, how much you're paying for marketing,
Yeah.
how much profit you can make, and how you can figure out how to, keep cash flow and having good business models.
Hmm.
That stuff hasn't changed.
Yes.
Yeah, the foundation and some of the basic
Mhm.
kind of elements haven't, but the arena in which we're playing is entirely
Always
different,
evolving.
right? Always
Yeah.
evolving. So that's
Yeah.
so
And
interesting.
probably product development too. So
Mhm.
how quickly you could test something now, whether it's a digital product or it's a physical thing like a
Yeah.
label, where you could get
Yeah.
something faster from across the world in your
Yeah.
hand.
Gosh, that's
Yeah.
so true. So, Julie, so if you are kind of looking forward, so we were just talking about, can't believe it's July 1st, just around the corner, and it's like the end of, we're going to be heading into a new year before we know it. And I love how you kind of broke out, if you're going to get to 2030 is like this next decade where, what do you need to do? But for yourself and what you're seeing, what is in the near future, or what are you looking at? Any left turns coming up that you want to share?
What are your
I
big, gorgeous goals you're
Big
asking?
gorgeous
I might
goals
not want
you're
to
asking.
hear.
I've been working on time freedom. Time freedom's
Yeah.
been something like
Okay.
I have valued myself for a lot of my career on my output, like actual work
Yes.
product.
Yes.
And how many hours I sit at my desk and how clean my inbox is, kind of as examples.
Tanya
um
doesn't know anything about that.
Like I literally am breaking out into hives as you're talking. I'm like, isn't that the most
yeah.
important thing,
Because
Julie?
you
I'm
have
being very
similar values.
sarcastic.
So I want to hear what Julie's going to say because
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know you
but
went
i
on
Yeah.
that
think
trip and I
i
want to
think
hear
it's
how it went.
I think it's one of the reasons that Pocket Coach
Yeah.
came to life for me is the idea of I can do it from anywhere. And
Yeah.
I was sort of curious to know if I could maintain some personal boundaries around running a program like that, where I wasn't working every evening and every weekend,
Yeah.
answering messages and that sort of thing. But can I structure a schedule that allows me a lot of freedom, but also where, I have some time every day that I'm
Sure.
devoting to that work?
Yeah.
And it's been quite good. I've been surprised how well I've
Good.
done. And so it is, as I move through to this next stage, it
Yes.
is where I want to keep working and I want to keep doing things. I also want to have time to um, give some of my time to good organizations on their boards and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and do other work to use the skills. And so I need to find that balance.
Wonderful.
How did
Gosh.
you do on that trip? Because you did post about that, saying
I
like you weren't going to check your email, and I think you went just before we went on our trip, Tanya. I feel like, and
yeah.
I was like, "How is it going?" Because we took as we went away for a month too, and or I went away for a month. Tanya and I
Yeah.
went for 10 days, but we said we called it vacation in order to clear the schedule.
Hmm.
But we were
Hmm.
still working together and
Right.
having a lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
But we had to clear the schedule in order to
Yeah.
fully avoid it.
Yeah. I had to check my email because my accountant needed me to sign off on my taxes.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that didn't count as far as I was
No,
concerned,
it
but I
doesn't.
didn't work. And it was very interesting because one of my girlfriends who was on the trip, she did. And
Mm.
we spent quite amount of time driving to see things. And so she'd sit up in the front seat of the van with the
Yeah.
driver with her laptop and tether on and do the work she
Yeah.
needed to do. And I would stay back. And when I sat up with the driver, I would just chat with him.
Hmm.
So it worked, and I was able to do it, which was really quite shocking to me
Yeah.
because I really, really never had. And I knew with this group of friends that I would get the open space for like big blue sky conversations and
Nice.
ridiculous ideas. And I wanted to just kind of bask in that. And so it was
Yes.
really good.
And I
Yeah.
Oh,
recognized a couple
fantastic.
faces on that trip. Like there's entrepreneurial minds in that. Were they all entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
Yes. So that blue sky, big
Yeah.
conversation, you
Yeah.
want to have time and space for that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And just have fun and unplug and come back and feel like I was ready because I think what happened is I've just the way the rhythm of the year has gone, I've gone from a few week chunks of being very, very busy at work to like a couple of weeks of time where I was off. And
Yeah.
so if I'm not off, am I coming back to the 4 to 6 weeks of like head down, go
Hmm.
hard with the energy I need or not?
Yeah.
Right. No, it's such a great point.
Yeah. But
I
that's
do
good.
th
That time freedom is huge. And I think that's what
I think
you,
it's massive.
and you
Yeah.
kind of inferred to that already, Tanya. Like you have like output performance, how Julie described it, like you're kind of built in that same structure and you've
Yeah.
been loosening that, I'd say,
Yeah.
like over the years as we've been
Yeah.
working together, but still not checking your inbox. Like
Yeah.
Tanya goes
Hmm.
on vacation and brings her laptop just in case, just in case, just in case.
Yeah.
Not
And
Hmm.
I'm
usually, but
starting
you
to
feel
release
comfortable
that.
with it. But you feel
Yes.
more comfortable with your laptop, where
Yep.
I feel much more comfortable to not bring it. But
Right.
we have
And
different
that's
roles
still,
and different
yeah.
minds.
And it is still like I did still bring it in case
You never know.
and it was the like, no, I need to the next step for me is I gotta leave it at home. Like it
Yes.
really is, you know?
Yeah, I think we're
Um,
very similar that
yeah.
way. I agree. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a 50-year-old woman who worked in a workforce of like in some space
Mm-hmm.
who isn't exactly the same way. I mean, that's how we
Mm-hmm.
grew, like I call it like my career, how I grew up. Like this is
Yeah.
so, and what is always amazing is whatever the scenario, like so great, not surprising to hear that, wow, it worked out. But that's all of us. We're like, wow, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can, and it's so amazing that we even didn't think it was a possibility. Like,
And the
what?
flip side is that you can bring your laptop and work from that front seat as well. You could
Yeah.
also do the
Well,
reverse.
that I
You
knew.
could
Yes.
That
completely
part I
not work,
know.
but you could also work from wherever, which
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
beautiful,
post-COVID
big,
Yeah.
benefit.
that's a
Yeah.
big, gorgeous goal. Like,
And
okay,
it
sit
was an
somewhere else.
interesting trip because we had all this time driving around the country in this van where if people wanted to work, they had that opportunity. And if you
Yeah.
didn't want to work, you just didn't. And so it was very interesting to
Lovely.
see the sort of two sides of that.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, this was great. I mean, it's
Yeah,
always I love to hear what other people are doing and kind of and understand their journey through this. But then when you hear some similarities, you're like, okay, like we're onto something. We just need to bring more and more women, empower more and more women to have trust in a bit of this shift, right?
Yeah.
That
I have
freedom's
one
so
more
important.
question though before we
Of
roll up.
course. Yeah.
So I know you have your tethers out with lots of female founders and women who are looking to do really cool, interesting things, whether from like an investor portfolio or a coaching
Mhm.
portfolio. So if you had like two examples, do you have two or one, like someone who's done something really interesting, really taken a left turn that has inspired you as well? Like who have you
Great
helped,
question.
watched, or been just ch- ch- proud of them and excited for
Mm.
them?
I have a friend of mine. She's in the US. She's part of a speaker group that I'm a part of. I have a small group of people.
Hmm.
And I was always pretty impressed with her. She was the first American US Air Force pilot to fly the F-16 in combat.
Oh, wow.
And her name is Sharon Pressler. And then she became a pilot, and she was a pilot at Southwest. And she took, when the pandemic came, pilots didn't, necessarily fare all that well. So she
Hmm.
retired from that. And now she's gotten a coaching certification and she's working with, at-risk youth.
Hmm.
And
Oh,
That's a
really
total left
like
turn.
total left turn. And I just think like she's just so grounded and so like accomplished and yet so approachable and relatable.
love that.
Yeah, and I really love that she's taking all the leadership skills she learned, through her time in the military, her time as, at Southwest, and she is using those to help kids who really need a hand.
That's
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is
Yeah, see, this is what
fantastic.
I think. It's like the third act, I think, in many cases will be people's favorite act because perhaps they've found themselves again
Yeah.
if they hadn't been able to hold on to her.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it is tricky. I think I read somewhere that midlife is you're the 16-year-old you, except you like yourself this time,
That's
which is
so
an
true.
interesting thought, right?
16,
Like,
that's interesting.
yeah, the when you were still a little bit unencumbered,
Right.
Yes.
right? You didn't, and maybe really it's 13, because I mean our 16-year-olds are pretty encumbered and this,
Mm-hmm.
but us at 16, I think we were more not naive, more
I don't know. I
genuine.
was drunk in a field hoping, my
Yes, of
parents thought I was
course. But
sleeping over at my friend's house.
yeah,
So,
but that was fun.
Same,
Isn't that fun?
same.
But she was free, Julie, right? She felt so
oh yeah,
free.
yeah. I do think that us as kids,
I think it's a
although
good point.
people got
Yeah.
bullied and we were not free as whatever, but compared to our kids today,
100%.
we had an anonymous existence in a lot
And
of ways
free
Yes.
that
to
our kids don't
ourselves. I
have.
mean, you'd compare the 16-year-old to the 40-year-old you, right? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so in this next state, you're like, okay, I can go back to, like, I went bike riding on Saturday. I had so much fun. I was just
yeah,
riding my bike. And I thought, huh, I haven't really just done that really for a while. And
yeah.
but I mean, 12-year-old me, I loved my bike.
I know. And
Yes.
remember, like we could run like the wind and all the
We
things that,
could.
we
Yes.
don't anymore.
It's so
But it
true.
is interesting to think about like that kind of free feeling, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that we um, replace that with feeling of responsibility in a lot of
Yes.
cases, right?
Yes.
That's very well
And what do
said.
you
That's
like?
exactly it.
Like, I read a lot. I still read a lot. And that's
Me
one of the
too.
few hobbies that I have held on my whole life. Like,
Yeah.
I really do love to read. So,
Yeah.
okay, what other things did your soul love to do? Did you forget about that?
Yeah.
Do you want
Yeah.
to bring it
It's true.
back?
Yeah.
And how do you bring that back? And that's why I think people think of retirement because they
Hmm.
think, oh, well, because I wasn't working. Like, but uh, there's nothing wrong with working if you're purposefully
Hmm.
like, do my work forever. That's okay
Sure.
if
Well,
you're
and
loving it.
I mean, retirement was not designed for the lifespan and the lives we have now, right? I mean, I think that when they set age 65 as the retirement age, the average it started in the US that they started to cap that, and the average lifespan or life expectancy was 63 at the time they set it at
Right.
65. So like we're talking,
Right.
and now the expectancies are in the 80s. Like
80s.
we're talking totally different, so 65 is kind of arbitrary given the
It
Yeah.
lifespan
totally
now,
is.
right?
It
So
totally
maybe it
is.
needs a rebrand. It's not retirement, but it's repurposement or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's about like, you know, hopefully you can get to a place where you don't have to work. You're doing work that you enjoy
Yes, that's what I
and
mean.
it, or that it feels
Yeah.
meaningful, or that, and so you can still use the knowledge and wisdom and skills that you have
Yeah.
to help move
To
things along for
contribute in
others and
ways.
contribute. Yeah.
That's why I think your freedom of time, I really is it has to be a big, gorgeous goal for a lot of
Yeah.
people
Yes.
because
It
that
doesn't happen unless you set it there.
and I don't
Hmm.
think, if we think of retirement, like people think, well, the freedom of time happens when I retire because I no longer need to work. It's like,
Hmm.
no, how do you create that before this arbitrary date so that you are more energized to work when you need to, but also truly have balance? But I mean, balance is even the wrong word because it may become that you're only working 20 or 30% of the time and 70,
Yeah.
but you're not really retired. Like, what is
No,
that even?
no.
It
And
has
then
been my goal.
yeah. And then what are the things you want to add, right? Like
Yes.
that's
Yes.
also what I'm saying right now is if I'm freeing up my time, yes, I'm gonna, give away some of my knowledge for free and do
Sure.
some worthy
Sure.
things. But what are the other things that I want to do for myself,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like I got an email in my inbox about signing up for a choir, like, and
Oh,
it's not a long-term commitment, but I used to
yeah.
like to sing at one point in my
Yes.
life.
Oh,
And
yes.
so why not go do a 10-week choir and see if I still like it?
Yes.
Yes.
Like I feel like I need to get out and try some things that will just put me back out in the world again in a different way.
Love
Yes.
that.
and have different conversations, different
Yes.
experiences, and
Yeah.
those moments
Lead
may
to,
launch the next
Yes.
idea,
Exactly.
which could be a business, but it could be a nonprofit. It could be that just I want to do this every Friday
could
because
be a
I'm
community you
happy.
find that's
Yeah.
entirely different. I love
Exactly.
this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time, Julie. This was amazing.
I
I
need
feel
to
For having
define what
me.
energized.
my big gorgeous goal
I
is.
know, me too.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
a sense,
Oh,
I might
that's
have
but
to
it
good.
tell.
probably will be one of many little goals. I need the bigger goal.
I will have
Yes,
a very
that's
hard time picking
exactly. I
one.
encourage you to lift it up till you get to the one umbrella that sits over it
Yes.
all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. Love that.
Oh,
All right, Julie.
wonderful.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
ladies.
much.
It was so good talking to you.
Okay,
So good
stay
talking
there
to
though.
you.
We're gonna
Just